And we are live for another episode of First Strike. Good to be back with my boys, Andy, Elliot, John, and Derek. Before we start the show, gotta plug our sponsor, FaceToFaceGames.com, the #1 place to start your Magic the Gathering, to get your Magic the Gathering singles. This week we have a Commander sale up to 40% off. And today we just upgraded the look. Much overdue. The site looked like a 90s website for so long, and we gave it a facelift today, and hopefully you guys can check it out and buy some stuff. But for our guest today, we got Michael Rapp, GP champion, Toronto champion. Got a chance to talk to him after his win. Was checking him playing against Kale, beat Kale Thompson, your boy Andy, in the top 4, I believe, and ended up winning the whole thing with Death Shadow. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Ooh, we might be experiencing some connection difficulties, Mike. You just broke up now completely. Yeah, we can hear you, but it wasn't going as good as right before the show, connection-wise. Oh, I think it's better now. Welcome back. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Okay. We're good. So you ended up winning GP Toronto. So while we have you, while the connection's okay, let's get down to it. Heading into Mythic Championship London, to be expected that you were going to be playing Death Shadow. What were you thinking about heading into that tournament? What was your head at in terms of Modern?
Honestly, I spent probably 5 or 6 weeks before the tournament playing everything I could think of on Moto, trying to convince myself not to play Death Shadow, and it did not work at all. So I ended up registering Death Shadow for the event, and it did okay with it.
Were there any changes that you made since Toronto?
Yeah, we dropped some of the cute stuff, like the Shattering Blow became a real card. We took Liliana the Veil out of the deck. We moved towards more engineered explosives. There's a lot of sideboard changes. We started playing Jason Prince Prodigy in the main deck. I think that was after, what GP was that? Miami, where Sam Party played it, and we decided to test it out. It was actually pretty good.
Because you like the Prodigy in the main. Did you predict all the popular decks that were going to be there at the London Championship, namely like Tron? Is it Phoenix? Did you expect, like, I think John and I were surprised to see Humans overperformed. Were you?
Honestly, we thought Humans was going to be there, but not nearly in the numbers that it ended up being.
But you were prepped for the other decks, like Tron and Phoenix.
Oh, yeah. When I was testing online, I think right about a third of my total matches were against Tron. And Phoenix was relatively popular, and it had been leading up to the London Mulligan. So we were relatively practiced against Phoenix.
And you mentioned you did okay. So were there any regrets over the deck selection, deck choices, anything?
Honestly, the deck felt good. I think I made a mistake that cost me a match, and then I lost a few like really, really close matches against stuff like Phoenix and War Prison. But in general, the deck felt good. The Graveyard Hate spot was a little contentious. We ended up playing 2 Surgical, 2 Ravenous Trap. I actually almost played a single Leyline because of the public decklist rule, because it just forces your opponent to play around it.
Heading into, so now with War of the Spark, are there any spicy cards from that set that you might be looking to add to your pet deck?
So there's a couple that I've had my eye on. Ingrat's Rampage does like a weird Dreadbore impression, but can also kill a key artifact sometimes. The issue with sacrifice an artifact in Modern is all of the artifact decks typically play a lot of artifacts, so it's like hard to get the one you want. The other edict, Liliana's Triumph, is something I'm much more interested in. I know for a while when Liliana of the Veil was still in my sideboard, some of the other Shadow players, including myself, were looking for a replacement edict, and there just wasn't a good one in Modern. And Liliana's Triumph has afforded us that opportunity, but I'm not sure the metagame is in a place right now where we want that card, but I'm sure it will be good in the future. And then there's the 4-mana red card, Bolt End, that has potential to be good in the deck as just a 1-mana swerve in addition to Stubborn Denial, but it's another card that I don't think is good right now, but it's nice to have access to.
Have you played Modern since War of the Spark has been legal?
I haven't played a ton. I've been focusing on Standard with all the upcoming MCQs. But I've played a couple of leagues, and I've tried out some of those cards, mainly Liliana's Triumph, and they've been fine, but not stellar.
All right, John, do you have any questions for Mike or anyone else?
Yeah, I'm always curious to hear. It's always curious to see and follow the No Good Matchup Cabal online, led by one BMJ Ben Jones. There, you guys definitely did a lot of good work, including like Shattering Blow, for example. Have you thought about like the new Narset, for example? I mean, it's like a 3-mana planeswalker. It's kind of a threat-ish. It does some work against control, digs you towards like your other threats, not threats, but like more gas, etc. Is that something you guys have thought about?
We had a short discussion about Narset, and if something like Blue-White Control or Esper Control continues to grow in popularity to the point where it is like Phoenix level popular, and actually, truth be told, Narset just sitting in play against Phoenix could be powerful. The issue we run into against the control decks, which are typically the ones that are drawing a bunch of cards, is that we are short on threats, not spells. And unfortunately, Narset can't find us any of our creatures. So it's a little shaky there. Like, it does some good stuff. It slows them down. It helps us find disruption. But the biggest issue we have in that matchup is not having enough creatures.
Yeah, I figure like the card's good enough. You can maybe reconfigure your 75 of it to like have non-spell, non-creature threats, like maybe Bitter Blossom or Liliana of the Veil, etc. But with Jace the Mind Sculptor, etc. But you're definitely right. It's more about the creatures and trying to tempo them out first and foremost.
Yeah, and those are cards that have moved their way in and out of the sideboard in the past, whether it be Liliana of the Veil, Liliana of the Last Hope. We've talked about Bitter Blossom. It's kind of dangerous in some matchups, truth be told, because there are some points where you want to get to like 4 or 5 life and then stop and not take any more damage for the rest of the game, and you can't effectively remove your own Bitter Blossom. So that gets a little dicey, but it is, a card on the surface that looks like it could do work in the deck, and I'm sure people have played it in the deck before to some amount of success.
Interesting, cool.
All right, one of the questions for you, John, is because people want us to speak on it. Is like, is Neoform the hot new thing, John? Tell us.
See, it's really the type of deck that would likely excite me and interest me at first, right? Because it can win on turn 1, etc. But I'm in a weird place now where like my opinion is kind of polar. I think without the London Mulligan, I don't think it's playable, and with the London Mulligan, I think it's worth a ban. So I'm in this like I'm stuck in this like weird spot. Like, and to be clear, Neoform took 2nd place in an IQ before this weekend, and this is their first week of being legal in paper. So maybe there's a bit more iterating and refining the list as is. like, look, it has an unacceptably high turn 1 and turn 2 rate in Modern. And even if it folds to like Counterspell or Discard, for example, like that alone probably means that it's like against the spirit of Modern that Wizards intends to. So given that Pro Tour Barcelona is in a few months, and they already said that they're already gonna try out the London Mulligan rule. Like I see no reason for me to keep iterating on it. I'll let Hivemind do that if it is indeed interesting. But yeah, Neoform is like, it's a real deck. It's a real combo, even though it might be fragile. But I just don't think it'll survive the implementation of the London Mulligan rules. And for me, I don't have interest because of that.
Man, coming from the degenerate man himself, John, could you let our listeners know how a bit, like really quickly, as how the deck actually functions and kills really fast?
Sure. So you're really only looking for 5 to 6 cards, but how it wins on turn. Your aim is to try to win on turn 1 or turn 2, and the key linchpin cards are 1, Allosaurus Rider, which is a 7-mana creature. The stats don't really matter, although I've won with the Allosaurus Rider beatdowns before. But the key is that it's a 7-mana creature. And what Neoform does is it can sacrifice a creature and evolve it into a creature that's the sacrificed creature is CMC +1, which means Grishoalbrand. So what you can do is you can either have a Similar Spirit Guide land hand or like a Chancellor of the Tangle hand, and you can cast Allosaurus Rider, which states that you may treat it into play without paying its mana cost if you exile 2 other green cards. Or you can metamorphose the Simian Spirit Guide's red mana into blue-green and evolve it into Grishoalbrand, draw a bunch of cards, cast Nourishing Shoal, Pitching Giant green creatures, and then basically you can win the game however you want here on turn 1 or turn 2. The win conditions have varied anywhere from a Lightning Storm to Seismic Assault to Laboratory Maniac to Conflagrate. Basically, anything that can win with 3 Simian Spirit Guides is what you want. So it is unique in that it doesn't fold to Graveyard Hate, or it doesn't fold to creature kill like Infect or Cheerios, which are the other 2 turn 2 kill decks, which is unique, right? So the real hates are like Grafdigger's Cage or Discard of Permission. But which is really unique because there's only a narrow range of hate that really works against this deck. But I think consistency is a very, very big issue here. With the London Mulligan definitely helped, and without it, I don't think it has the legs to survive, but maybe I'm wrong.
Okay, and so this past weekend, you ended up playing a tournament. You ended up playing Modern, and you ended up playing a tournament where you can win significant monies, which is not the case for Canada most of the time, if not all of the time. So tell us about that tournament.
Yeah, so Geek Fortress absent the typical GP Seattle, which is typically Eternal format, hosted their first events here. Shout out to them. So it was kind of like a 4K with like 1,500 going to first and 1,000 going to second. Unfortunately, I came second, but 1,000 USD is like infinite Canadian, so I'm still pretty happy. So yeah, I played Dredge. I posted my battle plan to the Patreon subscribers last week. I was very transparent about what I would change. Blast Zone was a very big hit in Dredge. It just gives you so much coverage on like hate pieces and just like controlling the board that can be tutored and recurred by Life from the Loam and the Dredge mechanic. And yeah, so I just lost 2 matches all day. I think I played pretty well. I think I played pretty tight. The funny thing is, we got kicked out at 11 p.m. because the tournament had logistical issues and started late. We had to get kicked out of the convention center at 11 p.m. So, like any good old PTQ story, we went over to across the street to a Marriott, went to a bar and sat down and just actually played our game 3 of the finals. It was a really fun experience. And my only punt really here is that I didn't order my glass of Long Island before the game 3. Really why I lost. I was just like playing game 3 sober. Like, who does that, right? So unfortunately, I was second, lost to Jun, which I think is a pretty fantastic fantastic matchup. And the thing is, like, I noticed that I thought that because of the Pro Tour result, Graveyard Hate would be on the downswing, and it was. Like, the Golgari and the Gen opponents in the quarterfinals and the finals only had 3 to 4 Nile spell bombs. No Leyline, no surgical, nothing. So I think I made the right call here, and I think I played as well as I could. So no regrets, but, I got unlucky, and yeah, I came home with 1K USD, which not bad, I guess.
Did I meet anyone in Calgary that did well? Like, the Warren Smith, and was Tobias playing?
Yeah, so Warren Smith actually got a shout out from Ari Lax and the Turn One Thoughtseize podcast here. He's been iterating on the Mono Red Phoenix deck with the finale of Promise. So we've kind of been discussing it in our Phoenix Cabal chat, so to speak. And yeah, this finale of Promise seems pretty promising in a Phoenix deck, both in blue, red, and red. And yeah, he like 2 of our groups played the Mono Red Phoenix deck. Warren went X2. I unfortunately had to beat my friend, my carmate, who was also playing the Mono Red Phoenix deck for my win-in. And yeah, I think Warren did well, and I think that leg also has some legs, and we're in the lab iterating and reiterating.
Well, he's always experimenting, so it's good to see him getting some love, some shout-outs, and seeing his Les do well. Derek, have you ever won 1K USD at a Magic tournament, all your years of grinding?
I mean, technically I've won 1,500 USD twice, but I mean, that's only because I only win Moto events, and they can't give you cash or playing incentive for online events, so you have to show up to the event to get paid, and that normally involves them putting 1,500 US money into your PayPal account afterward. But I wouldn't consider that the same thing in theory. Like, I technically won $1,500 to get a game loss or a match loss in London. So, I mean, if you want to call it winning, do what you want, but I'm not going to call it winning.
John spoke about like how he was transparent about the deck he was playing, and he played the exact deck that he played, and you can get that at patreon.com/firststrike if you're a supporter of the show. We got an upcoming guide from Andy, also on Esper Control. So we're talking about being transparent. When you post, you're going to play a deck, you're going to play it. And I think, Derek, I don't know, I stumbled upon some thread where this was an issue. I mean, what happened?
So
Esper Midrange, my bad. Esper Midrange by Andy.
I was watching the SCG this weekend, and I know a good amount of the SCG players at this point from mutuals or just being on Twitter. And I know Rudy. I've teamed with Rudy at a team SCG before. Rudy Brixa, by the way, he top 8 at the Open this weekend. And I know they put all their deck lists out for what is it's Team Nova, which they ripped off. Like, the original Team Nova is Gabe Sang, D-Rude, and Nassif for all those people who want a little bit of Magic history. That was Team Nova. Anyways, the Team Nova, and they put all their deck lists on Hipsters of the Coast. I go to the website to see what Harlan's deck list is, because Bant Flash, that looks cool, up my alley. I like mid-range cards, play a little Teferi, play a little Nissa Small, Vivian. Get there, I go there. Half the players aren't playing the list that they posted that they were playing. And I'm looking at some of these deck lists, and they're atrocious. They're stone unplayable. Like, I think Harlan originally posted he was going to play blue-green mid-range Stompy. And so I tweeted, like, hey, why isn't the Team Nova playing the deck list they said they were going to play, like, kind of tongue-in-cheek? Like, I put hashtag drama, and I didn't at them because I didn't know their handle. I put hashtag don't know their handle, sort of thing. And then somebody mentions me and links Harlan's Twitter, and Harlan posted that he had changed deck lists and put the deck list on his Twitter for complete transparency. I'm like, oh, cool. And I quote tweeted that. Harlan posted it. Drama over. It must have been like 8 hours later, and people are in my mentions tearing Team Nova apart because they switched deck lists after 2 of them put it in the top 8. And I was just like, I didn't mean to start it. It wasn't my fault that it started. But I mean, just be like John and be transparent. Just play the deck list you say you're gonna play, even if it's trash.
But yeah, I felt when you tweeted, I read it as tongue in cheek. And
everything I do is tongue in cheek. Like at this point, if you don't know that, like I don't know what to tell you.
I think as long as the person's giving out what he actually would play at the time, I mean, I give the person all the time, especially like Ruda said, they have to post it by Wednesday. I mean, if they audible to me. But if it's truly what they thought about playing at that time, then that's fine by me. Michael, you're pretty transparent yourself. You've been posting like an update for your Death Shadow deck like every week or a new guide every single tournament. Is that the deck you're actually playing at the events? I gotta know.
So every event that I've played Death Shadow, I have tweeted my list either like the Thursday or Friday beforehand, with the exception of the Pro Tour where I tweeted it after round 5. And I think a lot of the guys that I work with on the deck do. Ben posts lists regularly, Brandon posts lists regularly. We're out to help the community as much as we can with that kind of thing, right? So I get a lot of people that ask me questions after I post a deck list, and it's about various card choices, and we, if we wanted to, could lead people astray in that manner, but that doesn't do anybody any good, right? Because like we're out here trying to better ourselves at the same time that is helping everybody else around us. If we're spending time putting out lists that we don't think are right, that's just detracting from us actually figuring things out. So it doesn't do anybody any good to publish lists that you wouldn't play yourself, I think.
Just like how Jonathan, I like to brand him. I don't know if he likes it or not, as like the god of the graveyard, the underground beast or whatever. Do you enjoy being known as like the Death Shadow expert? I think you've built that brand really well just because you won the tournament with it, a GP with it, and then you consistently play it, and it's the consistent deck that you keep updating on your Twitter. So do you enjoy being the Death Shadow guy, known as the Death Shadow guy?
Yeah, it's funny because after Toronto, I did the interview with you, and then I had a couple other people reach out to me that wanted to talk about the deck. And I noticed on Goldfish at the time it was like in the top 5 most played decks, but I never saw any content for it. Like nobody was writing about it regularly. Like Ben Jones was like tweeting lists here and there, Brandon was tweeting lists here and there, but nobody was really working on the deck. So I saw it as a good opportunity to, at least rally the Death Shadow players that I knew, to try to get people working on the deck, to try to bring, attention to the deck, because obviously a lot of people are playing it, but no one's really talking about it.
Sweet. So okay, let's jump straight to standard. How's your preparation been going, Mike?
Pretty good. I've tried a couple of different things. Like I played Mono Red, it feels all right. I've played the Bant Flash deck, it feels all right. I've been playing Esper Hero for the last couple of days, and that deck feels really good if it is well tuned. I think having a good Mono Red matchup and a good Nexus matchup is an important thing right now. Even if those decks, specifically Nexus, I don't think Nexus is as good as people say it is right now, especially after how we saw it perform last weekend. But I think it is still a deck that people are going to play a lot, so having a good matchup against it is important.
Well, what's your first important tournament in Standard coming up?
I have an MCQ this weekend, and then I'll be at SCG Syracuse next weekend. So I'm trying to roll those tournaments together, kind of. And then I think there's 2 MCQs the weekend after that, but I'm not positive.
Okay. Okay, I'll jump to Andy now, who's been last we heard he was slaying a misplaced ginger in the streets, in the Emoto streets. How is he? Derek looks at me with those eyes. Andy, since then, after slaying notable players such as misplaced ginger, how's your standard testing going?
So originally I was all over the Simic Nexus deck. I thought it got the most powerful tools from the new set, and I thought it was one of the more powerful combo decks I've played. But then I played a league where I played in 5 rounds. I played against 2 main deck Cindervines and then 3 Thief of Sanity decks, and I was like, probably can't play this deck. And so then I just decided to move on, and I tried some other decks, and I've started to have a lot of success with Esper Hero, the same deck as Michael, and it's been just crushing. Once I found a really good tuned list with the right removal spells and the right amount of threats, that I was starting to beat just everything. And then from there, like I think I was talking to Elliot and Derek, I played like 3 leagues where I 4-1 3 times, losing only to the mirror. And then I 5-0'd, and then I 3-2'd, but we don't talk about that one. But all I've lost to really is like the Phoenix deck. I think you're a slight dog to control. I think if the Phoenix deck is good, I don't think you're good against it because it absolutely demolished me. And I think you're pretty good against red. You're very good against mono white, and you're very good you're pretty good against Bant. I think Bant has a hard time beating the card Teferi. It like turns off the whole reason their game plan's even like appetizing is because of all their flash creatures, and if they can't do that, then their game plan's pretty anemic. So I think Esper Heroes is the deck that I would play right now, and I wrote a deck guide for it for the Patreon. I have possibly going to a PTQ in Ottawa in a couple weeks, and then I have the Arena PTQ in 3 weeks. So I will be almost certainly playing it for those. And I think once we crunch some of the numbers down, I think it's very well positioned right now.
We often ask if a deck is, I don't know, we often do this, but if a certain deck is playing the best spells or creatures or whatever in the format, do you feel that way about the Esper Heroes deck, Andy?
It is what it does best is that it attacks from multiple angles. I think is like, and it also has a lot of army in a can type creatures. So I think what it does is it presents a lot of must kill threats that snowball. That means if your opponent's answers don't line up correctly, then you're going to be extremely far ahead, even if they kill it a couple turns later. And then it just has a lot of good planeswalkers. And I think it's hard for decks to deal with both at the same time. One of the problems is you don't have a lot of good ways to smooth out your draws, so you're at the mercy of like the order you draw your cards sometimes with the mid-range deck. And I think that's okay because your cards are pretty powerful. When you do curve out, it's really hard for decks to beat you. And you, like I said, attack from multiple different angles. And I think it's hard for control decks to keep up with those angles. And I think the other decks, sometimes you can go over the top of them. Like with Hero. Hero goes over the top of some decks pretty fast, especially if you ever draw 2. And I think it's just a very powerful spell deck full of a lot of powerful spells.
Okay, Elliot's planning to play the Montreal MCQ that we face-to-face games are hosting this weekend. And of course, we're hosting the Toronto one later in the month. Elliot, where's your head at? Are you on Esper Heroes as well? Are you on the same train? Usually you're on the same train as Andy.
Yeah, I've gotten on the Andy train. I'm riding in the caboose right now, and I'm going to play Esper Hero, it looks like. But to loop back to what happened with Team Nova and Rudy, Rudy's a friend of mine. Don't know the rest of the guys that well. But I'm totally one to flip-flop, and me saying Esper Hero now is no guarantees. I spoke to some people last week, and I was like, there's no way I'm not going to play Nexus. It beats all the hate with Blast Zone. It's so good. And then by Friday, I was like, well, if I was going to play the SCG, I would not play Nexus. I don't know what I would play, but it's not Nexus. I ended up playing the Bant deck for a bit. I did actually like it. I think the big weakness of the Bant deck is it has a rough mono red matchup. And I think I have had some technology. I played against it a couple times, managed to beat it with the Wanderer, which is sort of like a bit of an obscure uncommon from the new set. It's a 4-mana planeswalker, and the relevant text is that creatures or prevent all non-combat damage dealt to you and other permanents you control. So in a lot of the games against mono red post board, you have a bit of life gain with Knight of Ottoman stuff, and so you can kind of draw the game out a bit. But usually the cases you lose to their inevitability of the burn spells just going upstairs. But with Shalai and the Wanderer, it's actually just a hard lock. They can't kill Shalai, they can't kill the Wanderer, and they can't burn you. So eventually your board just, the creatures in the mono red deck kind of suck when they get to that point. So I think that, if you're going to play Bant, which I think is a totally fine deck, that's probably something you should look into. But yeah, right now I'm pretty heavily leaning towards Esper. Also to answer your question from earlier, whether it's the best cards deck, gold cards tend to be the best cards. The Esper deck is full of them because the hero rewards you for playing them. So not only are you playing the best cards, but you're getting an extra benefit out of them. So I'm looking forward to playing more of that and then changing my mind 3 times from now, between now and the event.
Yeah. So just to talk about the Nova thing, so I think the thing that people were upset about is that it's like the article is branded Team Nova's deck lists for SCG Richmond. Like there's a million different titles that serve the same purpose that could be much more accurate than that. And like maybe me as a watcher, I would go to Team or Hipsters of the Coast and see what Team Nova's playing. Now there's no way in hell I'm going to check what they're playing on Hipsters, right? Like I don't think they were intentionally misleading anybody. I think they just audibled, which is fine. But it's just a dumb name for an article when if like there's not going to be some like avenue to update it or something.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to fact check them on their past articles with the same title for other events. I'm pretty sure they do it for every SCG they go to or every big event that they're planning on attending. And so I think that it was, the populace was sort of the victim of this being a week 1 tournament. Things were not set in stone, and there was a lot of testing to be done in between when the article went up. I think they said it went up on Wednesday, so the decks probably were kind of finalized by Tuesday night, and that's 3 full days of testing. Rudy said that they saw the deck Friday afternoon and locked it in Friday night, this Bant deck. They found it on a Twitch stream. I forget the name of the streamer. I wish I could shout him out for building that deck.
F2K Moon, or it's Frankie Moon on Twitter or something. Harlan mentioned him in the thread at some point. I can't remember.
Yeah, so I mean, especially for a week 1 tournament, I agree. I don't believe they were being misleading intentionally. Could they have posted like an updated section of it in a perfect world? Probably yes, but I think by the time they were locked in their deck lists, it was even too late for that. So bit unfortunate that Derek brought light to it. I think Rudy's a good guy, and I don't know. It was a week 1 tournament. Give him. I
just wanted to see his deck list in round 12, so I could load it into Moto and see if it was good or not. And I just wanted the deck list. It's not my fault.
Eric, to be fair, on Cardboard Live application, you can actually just export it right now.
I didn't know that. It's not intuitive. I don't know. Don't expect these things of me. I did it the hard way.
New to computers.
Yeah, I myth-bustered it, and don't ask me to do anything, basically.
Okay, so go ahead, Mike.
Oh, I just wanted to put my piece on that. I think there's some weird animosity towards portraying the wrong information on Hipster's end, but I don't think that's on them, right? They do this for every tournament. They ask Nova for their deck lists, and I think the blame, if there is any, is more on Harlan and Rudy for going back on what they said they were doing. Even they have the right to do that. But if they did see the deck, Friday evening or whatever, posting an update is hard to do, right? Because if you have Magic content that wants to be up for the weekend, it generally has to be up by Thursday afternoon in order for it to be relevant, right?
Well, I mean, I can tell you for free right now that Andy sent Carr his deck guide at 4 p.m. It's still not posted. It's 10 p.m. What gives, Carr? Where's the turnaround time? The people want it.
Well, busy man, busy man.
And
Okay.
credit to Harlan. Harlan did tweet the deck like almost immediately. This wasn't like he tweeted in response to Derek. This was like he posted the deck before the tournament.
Yeah. I think if Rudy posted it, I definitely would have seen it. I didn't follow Harlan. I think that was part of the issue. I think but it wasn't just those two who switched decks. Who's at Weird Land guy? I don't know his real name.
Will Pulliam.
Yeah, he also audibled because the deck he played was unplayable. It was like some black-red pile, and he audibled to mono-red.
He won, by the way, so...
Yeah. The deck he actually played was, I think, good. The deck he put in that article was bad. But he didn't post that he was changing deck lists. And I personally don't have a problem if people are going to do the old bamboozle on somebody, whether on purpose or not. But, if you're going to speak on transparency, you might as well just do like the full transparency and just be like, this is what happened. This is what's going on. We don't want to bamboozle you. Here's our deck list. And then like if they win the event, you'll still go check their website anyways. But like if they're not going to post the real deck list, like why am I giving them clicks, right?
All right. Moving on. We had Mike on Esper Heroes, Andy on Esper Heroes, Elliot on Esper Heroes, and Derek, I think you tweeted that you took it for a spin on the stream. And last we heard, always on the green-black train. So really curious to know, where is your head at in Standard? Green-black or Esper?
Well, it's definitely not green-black. I think the deck.
You have the clip where you say like green-black's the deck. All you have to do is adjust, and you can beat anything.
The difference between that format and this format is the average power level of cards now is much higher than it was before, where the reactivity of green-black is not powerful enough. And to put this into specifics, like Nexus, I think, is a very powerful deck and is doing something extremely linear, and green-black can't adjust to beat that because it needs to also adjust to beat everything else. And because everything's so powerful, it's or linear, like you need immediate answers, and it just can't do that. It's just not the way you can build the deck in the colors that you're given. I did play Andy's Esper Heroes list. I went 0-2 into 5-0, so I definitely think the deck has legs. It needs to be tuned. There's a couple issues I had specifically, but I think that those three colors are the best colors you want to be in. You have Thoughtseize, you have removal spells, you have powerful planeswalkers. I played the Bant deck. My issue with that one is it has no good removal spells. You need to be ahead. The moment you're not ahead, you're losing the game. And I know that sounds extreme, but it's just straight up the truth. When you play a synergy deck and your opponent throws a wrench in your cogs and you're just sitting there like, okay, well now I need to go like spell in this order, like it's probably like Vivian into counter your spell Krasis to fuel back up. It's like that's just not happening, especially when there's a Thoughtseize in the format, right? So the deck also can't answer other problematic planeswalkers. So your opponent plays a 3-mana Teferi, you have no way to answer it. You play a Deputy Detention, they'll just kill it. Whatever. You know what I mean? Like they've drawn a card already. To me, the deck was very powerful for the weekend because people weren't playing it or they were underestimating it. You probably got a couple Mystic Snake gets in the deck, but I think in general that deck is just not good enough and will not stand up to the rest of the format. As for Nexus, like I said, the deck's powerful, but I don't think it's good. And what I mean by good is that if you have a deck that is built to beat it, Nexus will just lose like almost every time. Where if you have a deck like Green-Black, which is just like sort of to beat the format or to like do a middling thing the entire time, Nexus will crush it. But like obviously people adjust, and 3-mana Teferi is also a house. I'd probably play Esper Hero right now. Edgar's been trying to get me to play Esper Control. I have a huge disdain for control decks. I think they're generally unplayable. And it's also just really not my style. I do think the Esper control deck is good, but I think you not only have to build it perfectly, you have to play perfectly, which I don't think is possible for you to do enough where you also like the margins where you get lucky enough where the cards line up well also have to be like in the right area. Like it's too many moving things that have to go right, and I just don't think it's possible. But whatever. I'm playing the mocks not this weekend, but the following weekend. So I hope to find a deck by then. Right now it's looking like Esper Hero, but we'll see. Anything can happen.
Has anybody been trying this? Like, no one's talking about the Selesnya Tokens deck. Is it just bad? Is this the consensus here?
Nobody in this call is named Zachary Kinney, and unless you get him on the show, I think everybody will just agree that that deck is not very good. And that's the end of the story on that one.
So I have another buddy named Zach. His last name is Turgeon. He top-aided GP New Jersey, I think, the standard one that was around that time, with green-white tokens. And Zach Keene, who is a person that lives near both of us, actually approached Zach for the deck and has been playing it ever since.
Ooh, what does he think about it?
I can tell you that Zach is currently sitting about 20 feet from me playing Esper Hero.
Yeah, I can't remember when it was, but I remember talking to not Turgeon, other Zach, and just like saying like, man, like you can just never beat green black. You can never beat a fine finality. You can never, like, you can't do these things consistently. He's like, I don't know, man, I just keep winning. And then he just spiked the arena thing. Everybody's like, oh, he's the last player in the world playing it. It's like, yeah, he's the only one that has success with it because nobody else is playing it. Like, I don't, it's very odd that he is doing so well with it. I don't know. If you ask me, like, I would just not put that deck close to top tier at all, but if he wants to keep winning with it, let's go.
Yeah, I think that specifically this SCG top 8, I think you can glean a lot of information from what people. Because if you look at the names on the top, they're all people that you would expect to be among the top, 15 or in the room anyway. In new standard that does your job.
I think we're losing you. Okay, we got him back.
Is he back?
Yeah,
I was gonna say I don't know if week 1 standard is normally like that, but in my experience, week 1 standard, like, nobody really breaks it. They just sort of, whoever's playing a deck the best, and I think that's what you're trying to get at. You had like some very good players playing some decent decks very well, probably, and they were just beating up on the people who didn't know what they were doing with poorly built decks.
Yeah, and if you look at the names in the top 8, right, like you had Harlan, you had Edgar, you had Rudy, you had Bill, among a few others I'm probably forgetting. Any given SCG open room, people are probably in the top 10 players in the room. And in an open format where a lot of people's decks are bad, those people are going to naturally rise to the top even more than they already do. So I don't know that you get a lot of information from the decks they played because they were already at such an advantage.
I mean, I agree that they were at a very high advantage, but I think you can take something away from that is that the hive mind of players that are playing Magic are normally not good enough to realize that their deck is bad, and they're part of the hive mind, if that makes sense. Like, the trend, like we all saw the trend of Nexus on the up and up, and then you see at the SCG it comes to a stop and Nexus goes down, and I think that's what separated a lot of good players from bad players is the recognition that, I don't even know if that's the right word, that playing Nexus was a bad choice. Playing a proactive strategy was better. Maybe you could omit Esper Control, but I don't know. I think that you can like sort of pull that information the most away from this weekend.
Okay, look at it as a whole, I think you can extrapolate that pretty easily. I was just speaking on, like, is for Control good deck to be playing? There's 2 copies in the top. Who knows, right? It was Edgar and somebody else, and he was like the top at any SCG Open to go to.
Yeah, I don't know. But I do actually think Esper Control is a good deck. I think that most players won't be able to play it well, or build it correctly. Even if you look at the 2 Esper decks that made top 8, they are extremely different. Like, I want to say 10 cards different. I don't know. There's no Sultai. There wasn't as much Sultai in top 32. There's quite like a fair amount of Nexus, I think, and then like a lot of mono red. So I don't know. I agree with you that the players I would expect to be at the top were at the top, but I also think that the decks they chose are good decks, and I would expect that to be the metagame going forward.
All right, we've heard from everyone. Esper Heroes, John, give me some hope. Is there anything in the lab that you're cooking?
I mean, I was a bit inspired by Bob Wang, and he and his friends have been testing Blue-Green Stompy. You know, the old Galta deck with Thorn Lieutenants for red, departed deckhand because that's a playable card apparently, and God Eternal Ronus. The premise being that it's it's favored against red, Esper and Nexus. So I've been testing it a bit with Bob. It's kind of medium. It's just like I've won like 2/3 of the matches, but it doesn't feel great. It doesn't pass the sniff test. And I'm thinking of just going back to the old reliable red. But I'm a bit concerned that none of you guys have mentioned red as a good week 2 deck, and it might not be because of all the attention it's getting. So does anyone here actually think red's good?
I don't even think it was a good week 1 deck. I'm surprised it did so well, but I guess I'm also not surprised because looking at deck lists, a lot of people misbuilt their deck, and there's a lot of Simic Nexus in that room. I guess red was a good choice for that reason, but I normally just think the red decks are trash. Even if you look at them now, they're just kind of bad. I don't know, put a Wildgrowth Walker in your deck or something.
I think the thing with red is that new Chandra is very good. It's so much better than I thought it was. And like if you don't have like just straight Planeswalker removal, that card is just going to live forever and then kill you. And if not, it just like 5s you while drawing like a card or 2 on the way out. I think new Chandra is actually very good.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I also think that's what I mean when I say people are misbuilding their decks, right? Like, not having an answer to Planeswalker when Teferi is the best card in Standard is kind of insane to me. Not having creature removal when one of the best creatures is Thief of Sanity is like kind of weird to me also, right? And I think this is why like people are dramatically misbuilding their deck, is they're either weighted to one side where it's like Gruul aggro with no late game, or it's like Nexus where they just can't beat a resolved 3-drop. So I don't know.
I think the premise here is that, you know, week 1 and week 2, you want to be as proactive as possible. Chandra has been very good. It's kind of deceptive, right? It's like a lava spike with upside. Creature-based or damage-based removal doesn't interact well with it. And as Derek said, like, the list right now aren't built to combat red. Like, there's not a lot of D-Sparks and Contempts, etc., that can cleanly answer Chandra. And the other thesis is that people have pretty much retired Wildgrowth Walker, which was the bane of Red's existence over the last few seasons. So my thought is, if week 2 people are still putting Wild Growth Walker in retirement. Maybe it's a good choice. Like I've seen red decks like grind through all the Moments of Craving, all the Contempts, all the Absorbs, etc., and just like outgrind an Esper Heroes, for example. And that's what impressed me. It has a very good early game and a relatively robust late game, which is not something that I can say about a lot of decks.
Alrighty, we're just gonna wrap it up here. Mike, thanks so much for coming on, and I know you've begun to write articles, to contribute content outside of your Twitter feed. You wrote some articles here and there, and where can people find some of your latest stuff?
So I post a lot on Twitter, so that you can find me there at Rapacious One. I publish a weekly article for Hipsters of the Coast, so you can catch me there. It's usually out Thursday mornings. You can find me on Facebook at Michael Rapp. I think that's it for right now. I think I'm going to start trying to get into streaming or video content soon, but that's a little way in the future.
Sweet. Thank you so much for coming on once again, and I hope to see you crush another big tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. It was a ton of fun to do this with you guys.
Alrighty. That was GP champion Michael Rapp, Toronto. Great to have him on. Okay. I think you guys convinced me. Esper Heroes it is, at least to start off with. And I mean, I was getting go ahead, Andy.
I said, are we all going to be on the same deck? Or are we going to be like a team of sorts? Because I'll post what I'm playing.
I'm off it. I can't do this anymore. I can't do this.
We need to do. I'll put it on magic.facegames.com. Team First Strike decks. It's just like Esper Heroes.
It's just all the same list with like a card or two different.
The moment you do that, everybody's going to know the deck's bad. Just post an article that says, this deck's bad, please don't play it. And then get Hayne to insult it a bit. That's content, right? Like that's just what people like now, just name players insulting things. Isn't there a TV show like that where the angry cook just insults the sous chef and people watch it all the time?
Yeah.
What's that show called? Who is that guy? The old white guy.
Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah, Gordon Ramsay. It could be the Gordon Ramsay of Magic the Gathering decks. We could just send name pros bad deck lists and have them insulted. Oh, I'm so smart. This is $1 million idea. Why did I say this out loud? Oh, damn it.
Can't wait. So who's playing this weekend outside of Elliot's a lock, and any of you guys? John's a lock. MCQ?
Yeah, we got the Seattle Mock Sporting House MCQ, and a bunch of us from Vancouver is gonna try to invade their home territory like we did last week.
Ooh, I like that, Derek.
I'm just probably gonna be playing online. And I think there's one close to me June 1st, and then there's the one at Face to Face Toronto on the 15th. And those are the only two I'm playing. I missed the one in RIW Comics. RIW, the one in Michigan last weekend, Fournier top aided. It's only like 3 hours from my house. I didn't realize, like the same distance as Toronto.
I was asking Elliot if I had $100, should I spend it on Arena or MTGO? He said, why not both? I'm like, I mean, what if I could only spend $100 on one of them? Derek, what will be your suggestion to me?
It really depends on your goal.
To get as good as a standard as quickly as possible.
Magic Online. Not only that, you can probably get a good amount of your investment back. Any deck you can buy, or like if you just want to invest in Mana Traders, like you can just put the money in. Once you're good at a deck, you start making money back, and then you just can sell it all for like, I think Card Hoarder's now buying at 88 cents or whatever on the dollar. which is like pretty high if you convert to Canadian. So like it's probably worth it for Moto, and the competition on Arena is bad. It's just not. It's not where you want to be if you want to be getting better. It's good enough in a sense, like you'll play decent players, but not consistently enough where you'll like notice an advancement in your game. There's still problems with like phases stopping, or like people are clicking through their turns with Nexus, or the reclamation doesn't stop at the right time or something, right? Like there's still certain issues, and if you want to get better, you just can't have that happen.
All right. Andy, where have you been crushing, Arena or Moto?
Moto, actually. I
Ooh,
went back to just a lot of Moto testing, just basically because I think you get a lot of quality because the players who were there are like, most of them are like heavily invested grinders, or I should say a lot of them, maybe not most. And so you get to see what the grinders are playing, the people who like battle in for every edge they can possibly get, right? So these are the people constantly tuning their deck list, and these are the kind of people I want to play against when the set starts.
okay. We're going to close the show. Again, to support the show, go to patreon.com/firststrike, or just like, subscribe our show. Just like, I mean, just share it on Facebook, on Twitter. Again, I talk about how that's like the hugest help, because it is. Because if you tweet it out and you have even 10 people following you and one other person checks it out, that would, and if it just happens all the time for every listener, then it would just double our listenership. So just doing that is a huge help. But if you want to contribute monetarily, you can do so as well at patreon.com/firststrike. Actually, I have one more question for Derek on the subject of like potentially having to rent a deck on card hoarders. Would you recommend renting or buying a house?
Okay.
Why buy a house when you can sleep in your car?
Yeah.
Oh, game over. Game over.
Oh, this is a finance podcast
Be
now.
careful, Derek. You might get blocked on Twitter by some
Oh,
people.
yeah, I didn't get blocked at all. I still have access to see everything. Rob even jumped in at one point and was saying reasonable things, and there was just no response. Oh man. It depends. I don't know. Buying a house is better.
All right. We'll just leave it at that. But the key information that Derek learned, I felt like, is, and Elliot said that it was true, is that Montreal is cheaper than it sounds. So, and it's a great city, obviously.
I'm going to move to Montreal in the next 5 years. My 5-year plan. Live in Montreal for a year.
All right. Sounds good. For the rest of the guys, thanks for being in the chat. Thanks for joining us, and we will talk to you next week. And hopefully, Elliot, actually call your shot, Elliot.
I'm gonna lose in the quarterfinals.
Okay, he's gonna lose in the quarterfinals, and we'll catch you next week to see if that happens. Ciao, everyone.